Pascal here to let you guys know that we have a shorter episode this week, around 30 minutes. This week's episode follows the student-led walkout that reporter Erin Sellers and I went to, specifically at Lewis and Clark High School. It was one of the 6 walkouts across Spokane schools, led by a group called Spokane Students for Human Decency. This new student-led coalition organized these events to show, in their own words, support of human dignity and humane treatment for immigrant families in their community. You can find relevant articles, other podcast episodes, and more on our website, rangemedia.co. Thanks for listening, and on to the show.
On the morning of January 7th, Immigration and Customs Enforcement Officer Jonathan Ross shot and killed 37-year-old Renee Good in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The fallout has rippled across the U.S., sparking protests in major cities and locally here in Spokane. In the moments before her death, Good, a white queer woman and mother of 3, had been driving an SUV down a residential Minneapolis street where federal agents were swarming for an immigration operation and neighbors were protesting in response. People in Spokane are all too familiar with a brutal federal response to protests, but that didn't stop demonstrations and vigils from springing up right here in Spokane. Many of those demonstrations have been led by youth. Last week, one of the many protests against ICE was organized in an impromptu fashion by a young person who found himself heartbroken and upset by what had happened. After posting his plan to protest to Reddit, he was joined outside the facility by about a dozen protesters who waved signs, led chants, and voiced their opposition to ICE's actions, both in Minneapolis and across the country.
Justice for who? Renee Good! Justice for who? Renee Good! Justice for who? Renee Good!
As President Donald Trump's administration has continued to maintain that the ICE agent, Jonathan Ross, who shot Good, had absolute immunity when he shot her, protests and pushback have continued to rock the nation. Last week, students at the local Lewis and Clark High School found themselves so moved by what had happened and the continued lack of accountability that around a lunch table, a protest was born.
So me and a couple of other friends were talking about what happened with Renee Nicole Good and then the subsequent protests after in Minneapolis on Thursday. And we were just really pissed off. And so I came downstairs into the Commons at LC on Thursday, and I sat down at the table with my friend Soph, and I said, "So, bro, we've got to do something about this. Let's plan a walkout." And Soph was like, "Yes, let's do it." So at that lunch table, we started the Instagram account for Spokane Students for Human Decency, immediately picked up like 100 followers within the next 30 minutes, and then have grown that to over 800, approaching 900 now in the last 4 to 5 days. These are students from all over the district, from all different schools, and then also parents and teachers who really believe in our message.
You just heard from Ava Swigart, one of the organizers at Lewis and Clark High School. Well, the walkout idea and the corresponding group that's planning it, the newly formed Spokane Students for Human Decency, started at Lewis and Clark. It quickly expanded past just one high school.
This walkout isn't just happening at LC, it's happening at North Central, at St. George's, at Gonzaga Prep, and at Ferris, as well as Lewis and Clark. So it's happening at 5 schools that are confirmed and that are organizing it with us right now.
That clip comes from an interview with Ava we had the evening before the event. But on Tuesday morning, that list had shifted slightly. Mount Spokane High School had joined the walkout, while students at Gonzaga Prep had canceled their plans to participate. Organizers said because they received pushback and threats of detention from G-Prep administrators. Though it came together quickly, this protest wasn't spur of the moment. Ava and other students worked from Thursday to Monday to talk to administrators, to get the word out, to plan for a safe and effective demonstration.
We put up posters all around the school during first and second lunches. We made sure to hand out the flyers to students in the halls, at lunch, just in our classes, just to spread the word. And it gained traction pretty fast. And then Saturday and Sunday were just head down planning days, where we made sure that everyone knew what to do if they were approached by counter-protesters both at school or off school grounds, how to make respectful posters, just what the schedule of the event is going to be. And then Sunday was the Zoom call with all the student leaders. There was about 15 of us on that call. And then Monday today, or yesterday, last night, KHQ released the article, and then today we've had 2 to 3 news interviews. I think Soph is just finishing his with local news organizations to just spread the word.
And what are some of the SPS policies that you're having to consider or work around when you're planning this protest?
In the meeting that we had with admin on Thursday and Friday, we were given 3 different papers. One that talked about Spokane Students' right to assembly, one that talked about freedom of speech, and then one that talked about Spokane school staff and their job and their role in this. So for freedom of assembly, Spokane students are allowed to gather peacefully on any part of school grounds as long as it's not purposely disrupting class or getting in the way of other activities, which is not the point at all. And as long as it doesn't have to be at all connected to school-related matters, it can be anything. However, students are then subjugated because of skipping class to consequences. If it's on school property, it's just an unexcused absence. But if students were to leave school property, so for example, Lewis and Clark is hosting their walkout in the courtyard, which is on school property and fenced off since it's in downtown and it's kind of sketched downtown. If students were to leave the courtyard during the walkout, they would be faced with more severe consequences like in-school suspension or lunch detention. But staying in the courtyard where the walkout is being held you'll still be faced with an unexcused absence, but just making sure that students were clear that there are consequences associated with this, but that's how you practice sacrificial love, and that's how you get in the way of unjust systems. And then for students' freedom of speech, as long as it's not vulgar, as long as there's no swear words, and it's not targeting a group of people or discriminatory, students have freedom of speech. And that goes for signs and protest signs as well. And then for staff and Spokane school staff, they are required by their contract to remain neutral with all matters. And that includes they're not allowed to bring their students outside. If they have students in class, they're not allowed to say, okay, let's all just go up and go outside right now. That's the decision for the students to make, not the teacher. However, their teachers are supporting this under the table. Teachers are making sure that it's a work day for students during 4th period, which is the period that students would be skipping in order to attend the walkout, just to make sure that people aren't missing anything and also to show their support.
By the morning of Tuesday, January 13th, students across the city were well prepared for their walkout. Outside Lewis and Clark High School, a little crew of media had gathered on the sidewalk outside of the school. A few minutes before the scheduled walkout, Ava stepped outside of the gate to meet with media. It was a risk. She'd told me in advance that any student that left school property was risking more serious consequences, like detention. Still, Ava said it was worth it to her.
I think our politics right now are really dominated by older generations, and it's important to let people know that the youth, we're the next voice of America, and so we make our voices heard now.
Right after this, Ava ran back onto school property, the bells rang, and students started flooding into the courtyard at Lewis and Clark. Because media was pressed up against the fence outside of school property, we weren't able to get the cleanest audio. But what follows are a few clips that we were able to get from the student speakers, activities, and chants that were happening in the courtyard in front of us.
Immigrant families live in every neighborhood of this city, and our classmates, co-workers, and teammates have been affected by ICE actions right here. And so we stand with them, loudly, proudly, and unapologetically.
At around noon, the event at LC took an interesting turn. Students paused the speeches and the chants for a moment of silence. Then they followed that with a series of interactive activities, one of which was to write things that brought them hope, things that were beautiful, things that they loved about the world, and to post those colorful posters on the wall of the school. They also wrote things that they hated, things that made them angry, things that they were standing up to, and they ran those through a shredder that was available outside of school grounds. While students were participating in that, a few of the organizers stepped outside to talk to the press. Here's Ava Swigart, who told us that she did indeed get detention for leaving school grounds before the event to talk to the media.
How do you feel like this went?
It went really well. Yeah, I'm really pleased. I mean, you're just seeing, like, look at the rainbow on the windows. Isn't that awesome?
Oh, yes. Okay, the signs are starting to appear.
Yeah, people are putting their signs up. They're shredding the hate. And then we have people just going in to get lunch and then coming back outside and going around. So, yeah, I'm really pumped.
Whose job was it to come up with the protests playlist? Like, who created the protest playlist?
It was me.
It was?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me what went into the song selection.
Well, we had to keep it clean because we want to be respectful of school grounds and everything. But we wanted to choose songs that had distinct roots in the civil rights movement or songs that were American that everyone knew, because we want to turn the narrative, if that makes sense. I think a lot of conservative people right now are using the Constitution against more progressive-minded people, and so if we turn that language on them.
What was your favorite sign that you saw?
I liked one that said "Renee good, ice bad." That was good.
You know, I feel like a lot of the news, I've been watching non-stop clips of protests in Minneapolis. Where do you guys see students as kind of fitting into this larger picture of resistance?
Yeah, I was telling people earlier, I think that it's important to realize that our government right now it's run by a lot of older generations, and so it's important for students to know that they are actually the next voice of our country, and so giving a student voice early, it's important.
Have you heard anything about how the walkouts went at the other schools?
Not yet. We created a group chat with 19 people in it of organizers from all over the district, and if we get any notifications in there, it's bad news, so we're hoping not for bad news.
Okay.
And we haven't had any yet, so.
Cool.
Just a note, you're about to hear a question from Alina Perry, the education reporter at the Spokesman Review, who was also talking to Ava.
I just texted one of the spokesperson for Gonzaga Prep, and she
Okay.
said there wasn't a walkout there.
Ari?
No, the person who works there.
Oh,
Sheena,
interesting.
She does PR for the school.
Okay.
I don't know because I'm not there, so maybe she's talking about something else.
I know that at G-Prep, we heard a rumor that admin was going to shut them down because they said all people are created equal, and that includes ICE officers, so that means that you can't protest against ICE, even though that goes against Spokane School's policy. However, I don't know if G-Prep, since it's a private school, has different regulation, and they're Jesuit, so I don't know. Yeah.
And that's what I think she did say. Her words were there was no organized walkout.
Okay, well, it was actually organized, but if there wasn't a walkout, don't put it in the newspaper then. Yeah, G-Prep.
After we got back from the protest, we also reached out to G-Prep with a request for comment. We received an email from Gina Pinnock, the communications and social media specialist at Gonzaga Preparatory. Pinnock said there was, quote, not an organized walkout here at Prep this morning. Here's the official statement from their principal, Derek Deshane. We were aware of a student-led walkout being discussed today around Spokane. As a school community, we believe deeply in human dignity, compassion for marginalized people, and the fair and just enforcement of our nation's laws. We also see this as a teachable moment and are working with students to help them understand thoughtful, constructive ways to support causes they care about. Our focus remains on education, reflection, and maintaining a respectful, caring environment for all. Pinnock added that 4 students briefly left class independently. They were aware of school policy and, quote, were respectful in working with school administrators. She said these interactions provided an additional teachable moment and opportunities for constructive conversations. The students were, quote, addressed in accordance with school expectations. Admin used the moment to talk with the students about how supporting a cause often involves responsibility and personal sacrifice. Back to Ava.
You know, I think you mentioned on the phone yesterday that you had some register to vote things going on, or feast.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about what's going on with that?
So we have a lot of volunteers right now from Feast World Kitchen. They weren't allowed to bring food or drink, even though that's what they're famous for, because well, you can't on school grounds. But you can. They're here handing out flyers for volunteers. We're going to be posting about Rock the Vote, which is how students register to vote. And then we have the Washington Future Voters Program that we'll post about too, to make sure 16 and 18-year-olds will be early registered to vote.
Is the 2026 election going to be your first, or have you been able to?
Yep, it will be my first. I turned 18 on December 5th. So.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
It seems like, we saw some supporters posted out here with signs. I saw somebody with a sign that said, like, I'm proud of you. Did you guys see them from back there, or is this kind of seems like the first people are seeing of it?
Yeah, I think a lot of parents got the notification that Lewis and Clark was going to do this from our admin, just saying, by the way, your students were aware of this. We're not encouraging nor not encouraging. But I think we have a lot of support from parents and even staff under the table, of course, because they're supposed to be neutral.
Right. You said some of your teachers were just having like open work days.
Oh, work day, of course,
Cute.
Yeah. I think to get kids to realize that they have a voice, and they have a voice in legislation as well, not just like at a random high school in the middle of a city, but like they actually have a voice, a tangible voice that they can use at our next election. And the first one that's going to be 2026. And local elections matter just as much as state and national elections. But in order to vote, you have to be registered. So, yeah.
Were students told to wear black? Was that part of it? Or okay,
Yeah.
we were trying to figure out if students are just like goth these days.
Yeah, no, no, yeah. And it was supposed to be a symbol of solidarity for people who couldn't join the walkout, including teachers, if they wanted to. Yep.
How many teachers did you see wearing black today?
Like my teachers, maybe 3.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are you going back to school today, or are you done?
I'll clean up and then I'm out.
Right after we finished talking to Ava, we also met up with Soph Harris. He's a debate student at LC who is an integral part of planning the walkouts. In a few places, you can also hear questions from Perry.
Yeah.
Perfect.
What grade are you in?
I'm a senior.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, almost done.
Yeah.
Will 2026 be your first election, or were you able to vote before?
2026 will be my first election. I'm a little nervous, but it'll be good. Yeah. I'm excited.
So were you an organizer too, or just a participant?
I am. So Ava actually came up to me at my lunch table and was like, we should do something. I'm just not feeling great about our political state currently. And I was like, absolutely. Like, that's the best reason to do something, is not feeling confident about things. And we planned it in like 6 days. So, yeah.
So what would you describe as your part in the organizing? Like, what was your responsibility?
Yeah, absolutely. So I emailed a couple people. Mainly, I was in charge with like making signs and organizing our speakers, getting things together. Me and Ava would just text back and forth random stuff. So if Ava needed help with writing something, she'd send it to me. Yeah, we were low-key codependent through this whole process. So yeah.
And how did you go about making contacts at the other schools? Were these just friends that you already
absolutely.
had?
So I am actually a captain of our debate team, so I've made a lot of friends throughout my debate career. And because of that, those people are already like politically relevant and they want to talk about politics. So I reached out to a bunch of people that I already knew, people that I've gone to state with, and asked them if they'd want to be a part of something like this. And a lot of them did, so it was great. I had contacts at Ferris and NC as well,
So that's kind of how you guys got connected to the other schools?
It was pretty awesome.
Have you heard anything from your friends over there about how their walkouts went?
We're really hoping well. Ferris was having a couple issues with the different like counter protests, but we're pushing through those issues currently. We did a little Zoom meeting on Sunday to kind of get us organized and prepared, but I'm hoping well. Everything since we touched base this morning right before was going perfectly. So,
what were some of the considerations you talked about in that planning meeting, like stuff that you were kind of maybe worried about?
Yeah, absolutely. We talked a lot about scheduling, but mainly counter-protest is something that we're really worried about. A lot of people at our school, and I respect anyone's opinions, don't feel as strongly as we do about what we're talking about. And we want to make sure that we're respecting other people's viewpoints while also talking about what's relevant to us. So avoiding talking back to people, or even just making sure that we're staying positive through this process was really important. Also avoiding violent and like crude language was really important because we're at a school setting, so making sure that everything was kind of baseline for school rules was really important as well.
Yeah. I'm just curious why this was, I mean, obviously it took a lot of work, a lot of effort, pretty last minute. Why was it so important for you guys?
Yeah, me and Ava actually talked about doing something like this last year, and it kind of never went through the way we wanted it to. And because of, I mean, last year was way less
kind of politically polarized, and now since we're talking about things, it's become a lot more politically polarized. And what Ava was talking about is kind of just this anger and hate at a lot of things that are going on and fear about what's going on, and I think that the best way to do things about that is move through things and just be positive through your actions and take that fear and anger and push through. That's wonderful.
How do you think it went? How do you think it's going?
I think this is so amazing. I talked a little bit about this at the beginning of my thing. I never expected so many individuals to be so passionate. People brought like flowers from their houses. People bought flowers to bring. So many people made posters, which takes time out of busy schedules. And I think you can see just so many different people are just being so positive. It's amazing.
And what's going on with those rainbow postcards?
Yeah, so our rainbow postcards are like affirmations. So we have two separate sides of things. We have shred the hate and write affirmations. So hate is just any of those hateful, angry, like fearful thoughts you're having about ICE or our current state of America. You push that and you shred it. And then things that you're happy about within America, so things that you think are going well or things you wish America could be, those are the things we're writing on the walls, just so people can see like positive stuff. We want people to be positive. Yeah.
Now that you guys have figured out that you can kind of like mobilize like this across schools, what do you have any kind of aspirations? Like
Absolutely. We gained like 1,000 followers in like 4 days on Instagram. And that's so crazy for us because me and Ava have small follower accounts. But with that amount of people who are really active and interested in this stuff, we're going to try to push them to local food banks to volunteer. We're going to try to push them to other protests that are going to happen in the summer. And then even within our school zone, push them to organize to help out more. Yeah.
And this had to be like most of your school, right?
It's so much of our school, I think.
We were trying to estimate like how many students and then how many students would that leave? Like if you had to take an educated guess, what percentage of the school do you think came out to this?
I'm gonna lowball just so I don't seem too egotistical, but I would say a good 80% at least.
And that's the lowball?
Yeah, that's my lowball because I want to be careful. But I think that even the people who aren't out here are wearing, we had a specific color to wear black for LC and against ICE. And even people who are still in classes because of parents or other like specific things wore black to support us. So I think it's amazing.
Yeah. Would you want to tell us what you wrote as an affirmation?
Yeah.
If you wrote one, or what you shredded?
So me and Everett spoke a lot about, Everett is our ASB president at LC. So Everett Noble.
Okay.
Yeah, if I see him walk by, I'll try to point him out. But me and Everett both wrote hope on our aspirations because despite everything that's going on, I think every single person who's in here right now is feeling hope about situations, and pushing forward through things is hopeful, and making sure that we're doing things like this proves that hope is always going to be strong. And the stuff that I shredded, which is kind of a meta thing to shred, but I shredded hate, just because I think any hate and any connotation is horrible. Even the people who are against what we're doing here today, I don't hate them. And I don't want anyone else to spread hateful words or hateful messages to those people. I want everything to be in kindness and positivity.
As we were talking with Soph, students who had finished their protest activities, like shredding paper or hanging posters on the wall, started to line the fence outside the LC courtyard. The crowd grew as more and more students pushed up against the fence, holding signs and chanting. And as soon as we finished talking to Soph, he ran down the line on the outside of the fence, chanting and getting students pumped up.
No ICE! No KKK, no fascist USA! No ICE! No KKK, no fascist USA! No ICE! No KKK, no fascist USA! No ICE! No KKK, no fascist USA!
Ava and Soph were both at LC, which had the largest walkout of the day. After we got back from the protest, we also had the opportunity to talk to Addie Vasquez, a student at Ferris High School who was part of the organizing at that campus.
So what was the event like at your school?
It was really great. When I was originally planning this, I was not expecting this big of a turnout. We were thinking it was only going to be 10 people because we hadn't seen much, like I hadn't heard much people talking about it or posting about it or anything. So when this many people showed up, we were really surprised. It went really well. Everyone was really supportive and happy to be there. We had people that were coming even when we were already out at our spot that we chose to stand at. And everyone was eager to chant, and everyone had signs. They were ready to be there, and it was amazing to see it all come together because we planned this in like 2 days, and so we were all in a big Zoom call, and I was saying that I was worried about like people not showing up or something, but people showed up. A lot of people showed up, and it's nice to see that people care that much about this, to show up and miss school and maybe get lunch detention or something, or ISS.
If you had to estimate, how many students do you think walked out at Ferris?
Probably when we had the most students, a good 100 kids were out there.
And we were at the LC protest, so we saw kind of, they had an order of events with some speakers and a moment of silence. I was curious, what was the kind of order of events at Ferris?
So I heard about this protest. My brother and my boyfriend both go to LC, and so they were telling me about it, and I saw the account post about it, and I didn't see anything for other schools really, and so I messaged them that day and asked them if this was something that was happening at Ferris too and all the other schools, or it was just an LC thing, and she was like, well, it can totally happen at Ferris. And so we were talking about how we can spread awareness that this is happening at Ferris too, and so she helped me she made a post for it, and I reposted it, and I talked to people about my school, and she connected me with Avery, who was also wanting this to happen at Ferris. And so we had a Zoom meeting on Sunday for about 2 hours, just talking about logistics and planning. Ava was just telling us about their plan. We didn't have the resources they did, so ours wasn't as elaborate. We didn't have like a shredder or like a microphone or anything. Me and Avery, when we were talking, we just stood on a ledge and just talked with that. We didn't have like a microphone or anything. We didn't have activities like that either. We did have a moment of silence, talked about why we were here. And we had one student speaker who came up and gave an amazing speech. And then we just kind of walked around the perimeter of our school because we're not really supposed to leave. We could get ISS, and I didn't want a bunch of people to get in trouble for this. Didn't have any counter protesters or anything either. But we just walked around for a bit and stood in the corner. We just stood there. Yeah, we just stood there for a while and cheered and chanted, and then we moved down a little bit closer to the tennis courts, and then we had to go back up, and at the end we had a little thank you speech, and they just went back to class at 12:30. Ours was not at all as elaborate as LC's. We didn't have the time to come up with that since we weren't the original planners.
Why was it important for you guys to get Ferris involved as well?
Well, last year when I was a junior, we had a protest that was about the Turning Point USA Club, and it was pretty successful. That club got taken down. And so I've also always been like passionate about politics and stuff. And so it was important to me that there was something said about this, especially since my mom is a resident here, but she's from Canada, and she's a Canadian citizen, and my grandparents are from Mexico, and so this was just something that kind of like, so my dad is also Hispanic, and so this is something that kind of just was important to me that people were ready, and also I just really disagree with what's going on, and I wanted to try and do something about it, and since this seemed like the option available to me to what I could do, I wanted to make it happen.
Was there a particular moment or sign or detail from today's event that stuck out to you?
We were standing on the corner of that four-way intersection, and people were cheering, and all these cars were passing us with their windows down, and they were honking and waving, and cheering with us as they drove past, and some people were taking videos, and this woman came over and came up to me and Avery and told us how thankful she was we planned this and how impressed and proud she was, and it was just really nice to see other people cheering. And at one point, a different person, not from our school, had showed up with a sign on the other side of the street and was cheering with us on the other side of the street. So I thought that was really cool to see everyone come together and see the support from people all around us.
What's next for you guys? Is there any future talks? I know Eva was talking about like get out the vote conversations and like voter registrations. Is there any kind of activism or advocacy that's next on the docket for you guys over at Ferris?
Well, me and Ava were talking earlier about how we wanted to connect all of the schools that wanted to do, like all of the students from all of the schools that were doing this protest all together, so we could have all of us together in one central area like Comstock or Manitou, so we could all protest together. There would be so much more of us, because my worry at first was that there wasn't going to be anybody showing up at Ferris, and so I was trying to figure out a way to bring the few people at Ferris over to LC so that we could combine. But that didn't end up working out, and I guess there were too many people at Ferris anyway, which is a good thing. But we wanted to try and do a big combined protest at one of the parks with all of the students from all of the schools that wanted to go.
So some kind of big combined protest might be on the future horizon for all of the students.
Yeah.
Throughout the day, there was a lot of support for these students. As the protest continued, the crowd outside gathered. At first, it was just members of the media, but by the time that students had left the campus during their lunch break and started to march around the block, chanting, waving signs, cars honking alongside them, local activists from groups like the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the Mutual Aid Survival Squad, and others had gathered outside. One of the most striking images we took from the protest was a person holding a cardboard sign in front of their face that just read, "I am so proud of you." Students said that support extended beyond just the protesters who showed up to march alongside them or the cars that honked. They also talked about the support of their parents, and some of them the tacit support of school employees who could have made it a lot harder for them to be doing what they did. There was also the support of outside organizations, one of those being Feast World Kitchen. Students reached out to Feast because they didn't want their work to just be a walkout. They also wanted to connect students to volunteer opportunities, to immigrant-led organizations already doing the work in the community, and other ways to stay involved. Feast posted on Facebook after the event, quote, "Feast is about so much more than food. It's about the community. It's about the network of support and friendship that helps us all stand strong and move through difficult times. From the beginning, it has been about our neighborhood, and when the neighborhood high school students from LC invited us to show up and be with them as they walked out in support of their immigrant neighbors, we were honored to be there. We're happy to report. The kids are all right, and the future is bright. Thank you for organizing, activating, and inspiring." The students also have the Instagram page they set up to start organizing this. Today, the Spokane Students for Human Decency account has over 1,130 followers. They also immediately posted next steps. They posted Rock the Vote information so that students who will be 18 by the next election can register to vote. They also posted volunteer info for Thrive, the Barton School, Manzanita House, and Feast World Kitchen, and contact info for local representatives for students who want to continue advocating. They also posted information on the Peace and Justice Action League of Spokane's Young Activist Leaders program. And they encourage students to continue supporting local immigrant-owned businesses and refrain from or boycott stores and products that contribute to human rights abuses. And these students are remarkably organized. After the event, they sent out a press release to media who had attended, along with photos from walkouts at other schools, not just LC. These kids have a bright future ahead of them, and they're willing to fight for it.
No ICE, no KKK, no fascist USA. 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 No ICE, no KKK, no fascist USA.
That's our show this week. Free Range is a weekly news and public affairs program presented by Range Media and produced by Range Media and KYRS Community Radio, KYRS Medical Lake Spokane. Thanks for listening.